What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Back here on Third and Long. We're going to talk about a lot of cool things here, ladies and gentlemen. Today, here on Third and Long, let's get into it. First things first, what a great last week of college football. Week 7, tremendous. A lot of what we expected to happen, honestly. So, nothing too surprising. But now we're going to move on to week 8. We're going to get into the 3 top games, in my opinion, of this week of college football here coming up on Saturday. First game we're going to talk about is big noon kickoff at 12 p.m. 12 p.m.? Yeah, that's right, 12 p.m. I always get those confused. We got Penn State playing Ohio State at Ohio State. Number 7 team in the country traveling to the number 3 in the country, Ohio State. So very exciting game that's coming up here. And, you look at this game and there's a lot of things that you have to factor in here. And a lot of things can happen depending on which team wins. And there's different scenarios. And, we're going to talk about them. Excuse me. So, Dave Franklin has been Penn State's coach for a hot minute now. I don't remember the exact number. I know it's been a couple of years, though. Penn State has had a lot of trouble when it comes to them getting to a big game and actually being successful in that game. And, it happens. It happens. It's football. It's what it is. It is exactly what it is, right? And you think about it and you say to yourself, can Penn State get to that big game and can they win it? Meaning the Big Ten championship game at the end of the season. They've come close. They've had a lot of great seasons, 10-3, 11-2 last year. I mean, making the Rose Bowl appearance and winning it, being Rose Bowl champions. But they haven't been able to get in the college football playoffs yet since the college football playoffs started. Now, not to say that makes a program a bad program. It doesn't. I mean, there's only four places. Oh, I should probably turn that down. It's my notifications going off. That's not good. But yeah, you look at it and you say to yourself, can Penn State get there? Especially against a good, well-coached Ryan Day. He's 51-6 going into all of his games being a head coach at Ohio State. And you think to yourself, man, Ryan Day's got this whole entire concept of winning games, and big games for that matter, down pat. And he does. Ryan Day is a fantastic coach. Now, is he my favorite? I'm not going to get into that. He is a tremendous coach, however. And the thing that you have to always acknowledge is Ohio State is always going to be Ohio State. No matter who you put them up against, you have to say, oh, it's Ohio State. They could come out and they could upset somebody, even if they were having a 6-6 year, right? You'd still have to say it's Ohio State. It's Ohio State, and they're going to play you tough, and they're going to give you all that you want. Now, let's talk about some things that can happen on Saturday. If Ohio State wins this game, then they will have a sure slot in the college football playoff up until they play Michigan State. Not Michigan State, Michigan, sorry. If they win this game, that slot is pretty much secure till that game later on in the year. I believe it's the last game this year before the Big Ten championship. Now, if you factor that in, right, I don't think Michigan is going to lose to Penn State. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that Michigan is going to get beat by Ohio State. So you'd have Penn State, who would then have 2 losses, and they would pretty much be out of the college football playoffs unless a miracle happens, right? And if Ohio State loses 2 games, which, in this scenario is not happening. They only lose 1 to Michigan, right? Michigan's undefeated. Ohio State would then play Michigan again in the Big Ten championship. And we get the same story as we always have been. Ohio State will probably make the playoff, and do whatever, right? So it kind of it's kind of the same storyline, right? But here's what happens if Penn State wins. If Penn State wins this game going to Ohio State, Dave Franklin will now be talked about as the best coach of the year so far, in my personal opinion. He has led this Penn State team to really be looked at as a potential true Big Ten championship game contender. And in the past years, I mean, everyone's talked about, oh, Penn State's good. Penn State's good. They've been the midwife of this entire Big Ten league. And, you think about it, the Big Ten conference, that's how it always has been. It's either been Michigan or Ohio State. There's never been Penn State that to be like, oh, especially recently, Penn State hasn't been there. Penn State hasn't been in that conversation. Now this year, watch out. Penn State's coming, and Penn State's ready. Let's say in this scenario, Penn State ends up beating Ohio State. Fantastic, right? Penn State beats Ohio State at Ohio State. Now some certain things start to click in. In this scenario, I don't think Penn State has what it takes to beat Michigan, right? So Michigan is still undefeated. Like I said, I don't think that Ohio State is going to beat Michigan in any of these scenarios. So Michigan is now undefeated. Ohio State then loses to Michigan as well. So they lose to Penn State, they lose to Michigan. Now you're looking at a 2-loss Ohio State team who now, for the first time in a while, misses the Big Ten championship game. And now it's a Penn State-Michigan rematch. And I think Penn State might win that one. I think that Penn State, Dave Franklin would have it figured out. And I think that it'd be a very contested game. Do I think that Penn State would win a second rematch against Michigan? I don't know. I'd have to watch the first game that they play, which is later on in the season. And I'd have to really analyze it and really think, could they do it if they were to play each other again? But now, regardless, right, let's say Michigan is a 1-loss team after they play Penn State for the Big Ten championship game. Now you have Ohio State with 2 losses, so they're out of the college football playoff picture here. Penn State now has a golden opportunity to get into the college football playoff, their first berth in the entire 14 playoff system since it started, right? And now you have Michigan and Penn State playing together for the national championship, which would be tremendous. I love James Franklin. I love Penn State. Penn State's a great football program. They've done a lot of rebuilding over the years, and they've made Penn State a true contender. If you were to ask me, skipping all the scenarios, just on this Saturday, who's going to win? Ohio State is favored at 6.5 right now. I believe that was earlier in the week, and now it's down to, I believe, 4. Let me double check that. I just want to make sure I'm telling you guys the right stuff here. Yeah, Ohio State is now favored by 4.5 points. There's a reason why the line has moved and it's gone down, because people are now noticing how good Penn State is. Ohio State has had a hot offense. They just have. They've always had, especially in the recent decade, right? Penn State has had the least amount of 20-plus yard plays in FBS. But they're still winning by a lot. And I mean a lot. They just blew out UMass by 63-0. And that's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Penn State this year seriously is a different Penn State team. I think that on Saturday, the 21st of October at 12 p.m. on Fox, Penn State is going to go into Ohio State and they are going to have to fight tooth and nail, scratching and clawing. But I think they beat Ohio State. I think they beat Ohio State by 10 points. I do. I think that this Penn State defense is tremendous. They held Iowa State basically at a standstill. Iowa could not move. Sorry, not Iowa State. Iowa. They could not move the ball against Penn State's defense. Granted, it was at Penn State, but still, I think if you played them at Iowa, I think the result's still the same. I think this Penn State team is fantastic. I love their defense. I love their offense. Their running game is crazy. Their offensive line, their front five are animals. They're just dominant. They just are. And if you look at it, Ohio State's offensive line has not been that good this year. They just haven't. And it's no fault of Ohio State. It's just they're just not the same Ohio State team that they have been for the past couple of years. And I truly think if you look at it and you look at this game, the only way that I can see Ohio State winning this game is by a field goal. I don't think that Ohio State will cover. I think Penn State will win outright. I think Penn State will win by 10 points. I just see it. I see it happening, and I see James Franklin finally getting to say at the end of the game, we're here and we're playing for a national championship. And I think that's great. I think it's awesome. I think it's great for the sport. And that's my thoughts on it. I'm going to put money on it, and I think that you should too. Now, don't blame me if it's wrong. Don't do that. Up next, we got Duke at Florida State. Duke, number 16th ranked team in the country. By the way, who would have thought that? Who would have thought that this year? Who would have thought that they would have played Clemson the way they did, just straight up beating them 28-7 at home? First game. I didn't at all. Then they go on to win 4 more games, and their only loss is to a Notre Dame team that they almost had beat. And this Notre Dame team is a lot better than the one was last year. So you think to yourself, wow. In my opinion, Duke should be now 6-0. This should be a matchup of undefeateds, but it's not due to just some costly mistakes at the end of the Notre Dame game. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back, watch like the final, 3 minutes of the game, and you'll be like, oh, wow, I see what he's talking about. Just some small things, and I think that Mike Elko has really fixed that, right? So, anyways, excuse me, I got some burping. I had sushi. So, anyways, Duke's going to Florida State. Right now, Florida State is a 14.5-point favorite. Now, if you ask me, I think that number is too high. I think it's way, way too high. Duke's defense is fantastic. It is currently the 4th ranked defense in all of college football for a good reason. They do a great job of defending the run. They do a great job of pressuring their quarterback, and they do just a fantastic job of making sure that there's not a lot of deep plays that take place. They're really, really disciplined. They know how to control themselves, and they know how to get after the offensive linemen. Their defensive linemen have been able to really go up against some of the best defensive linemen so far. Their defensive linemen have been able to go up against some great offensive linemen, and they've been able to show out. And, I think that that's going to be the same story here. I don't think that that's going to change, especially throughout the rest of the season. Florida State has been a team to me where I've said at times, oh, wow, they're great. Oh, they're fantastic. Florida State's got it. Florida State is a team. Florida State has the opportunity to really make a statement, right? Florida State's quarterback, Travis, has been tremendous, right? He's 115 out of 182, so he's throwing really, really well. He has almost 1,500 yards, 13 touchdowns, 1 interception the entire season. Those are great, great numbers. And he's been able to do it. Their receiving core at Florida State is tremendous. They're great. I mean, this is going to be Florida State's biggest test so far defensively that they have played. People be like, "Oh, they played LSU. LSU doesn't have a defense." Sorry, for all you Tiger fans out there, go Tigers. They don't have a defense this year. And if you believe that they do, I don't know what planet you're living on, but it's not the planet of reality. Okay, I'm just saying, sue me if you think that I'm wrong, but whatever. You live in your fantasy world if you want to. We're here in the world of reality. Right, back to it. Let's get into the picking them. So if you were to ask me, there's two ways this game goes. Two ways. If Duke has Riley Leonard for this game, if he comes back from his ankle injury that he sustained at the end of the Notre Dame game, I think Duke has a chance to win this game. I truly, truly think that Duke has a chance to win this game. Now, yes, it is at FSU, but I don't think that matters. I really don't. Yes, it's an intimidating environment with the Tomahawks, right? I get it, right? I understand. But I don't think it plays a factor this game. Duke is going to come out and they're going to play some really good defense the entire game. Mike Elko is going to make sure that they hold Florida State down. And the thing about it is this, right? If Riley Leonard is in this game, he is going to be the difference maker on offense. He is going to run shop all throughout Florida's defense. Duke's interior, their offensive line has been able to really open up holes and make running room for their running back Waters. He has been able to truly light up this Duke offense, and I think it's going to show. I think if you honestly were to tell me to put money on it, I put money on Duke. I don't think, even if Florida State does win this game, I don't see a scenario where Florida State wins by 15 or more points. I just don't see it. I don't see Florida State doing that against this really good Duke team. I just don't see it happening. I think it'll be a great game. It's exciting. It's going to be at 7:30 at night on ABC. It's going to be a game to watch. And I truly think that Duke is going to pull off the upset if Riley Leonard plays. If he doesn't, I don't think Duke wins. But if Riley Leonard does play, there's a chance. There's a chance. Anyways, moving on to our final game. We got the Tennessee Vols. The Volunteers are heading down to Tuscaloosa to take on number 11 Alabama. Tennessee is going into this game with one loss at ranked number 17. Alabama is going into this game defending their home turf 6-1, ranked number 11th in the country. So let's get into it, right? There is a lot riding on this game for both teams, right? It truly is a lot riding on it. Tennessee has so much that they have to play for in this game, and so does Alabama. I was recently at the Texas A&M game last week at Neyland Stadium. There we go. And man, what an atmosphere Neyland Stadium is. I love going there. Went there last year when they played Missouri. It wasn't like it was this game. It was more – it was so electric. I mean, the crowd, the people there are super nice. And it was tremendous. It was great. I was losing my voice, whatever. It was fantastic. I was yelling at the top of my lungs all four quarters. Truly, SEC knows how to just have a electric atmosphere at every single home game in the SEC. It's just tremendous. It's fantastic. But let's break it down here. Tennessee is a little bit different this year. They are not like the Tennessee of last year where they played Alabama at home and they had Hendon Hooker, right? They got Melton. Milton is a good quarterback. He's a great quarterback, but he's not a Hendon Hooker. And people need to stop comparing them because he's never going to be as good as Hendon Hooker was. But I do believe that Milton is a great quarterback. I mean, just look at these numbers. He's 112 out of 182. He's thrown for over 1,260 yards. He has 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Those aren't bad numbers. Now the throwing touchdowns could be a little bit more, but still, it's good numbers. It's not bad. Their run game, which is surprising this year because Tennessee is more of a run team this year than they were last year. Obviously, because they had Hendon Hooker, but I mean, check this out: 80 carries, 571 yards for Jonte Wright, 1 touchdown. Right? I mean, this team is different. They're still fast tempoed. I mean, Lord, I remember I was cheering after a play was over, and then all of a sudden they're like getting lined up. I'm like, did you guys just not? They're so quick. They're so quick to get on the ball and just start another play. And Josh Heupel's done a great job with this team. Josh Heupel has taken this Tennessee team, who was really, really low when he started, and he just had this meteoric rise that has Tennessee back in the talk for being a potential SEC contender now. And it's great for the SEC. It's great for the sport of college football. And it's just tremendous. It's great. It's great. Now, if we look at Jalen Milroe, 85 of 132, 1,397 yards, 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. It's kind of the same thing almost as Milton. So the quarterbacks are equal. There's no big difference like there was last year. Last year, Hendon Hooker was clearly the better quarterback. And the thing about it is this, right? This game starts at 3:30 kickoff, and it's on CBS, and it's going to be a tremendous game. This game has a lot riding on it. If Tennessee wins this game, they have a true shot of making the college football playoff. Because if you look at the rest of their schedule, they have a pretty easy path. I mean, they play if they beat Alabama this Saturday, they play Kentucky next, then they play UConn, Missouri, Georgia, and then Vanderbilt. Now, the only 2 real tests they have left is Missouri and Georgia. Now, the problem is that they are playing Georgia, but it is at Neyland Stadium. It is in Knoxville. So that does help them out a lot. And when you think about it, Tennessee only has really to win out. Now, it's a tall order, but I believe that they could do it. They could possibly do it. But Neyland Stadium is going to have to be loud when they play Georgia. Now, if Bama wins this game, the next opponent, they have LSU at Alabama again. They go on the road to play Kentucky, Chattanooga, and then their last game of the year is Auburn. Alabama has the easiest schedule here. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like there's no comparison that you can make to say, oh, well, the Alabama schedule is just as hard as Tennessee. No, it's not. No, it's not. Alabama does not play Georgia close to the end of the season. They don't. They play Chattanooga and then Auburn. That's going to be an easy walkthrough for them, especially Chattanooga. They might as well put in their backups and let them play all 4 quarters, because guess what? Chattanooga's not going to beat Alabama. If Alabama gets beat by Chattanooga, I promise you I will quit my job in the United States military, and I will absolutely just go into the woods. I'll go into the woods, and I'll never watch college football again. You have my word. Alabama, please win. All right, let's break it down here. So Alabama is a 9.5-point favorite going into this game. Alabama is so much favored in this game, and I'm not sure why. This Alabama team is not like what it was last year. And, I mean, it's a tale of 2 sides, right? Both of these teams are not the same. but they are better in some aspects, right? As the season has gone on, Alabama has gotten a lot better, especially on the offensive line, especially a defense. Tennessee has gotten better when it comes to running the ball. They're not just so reliant on that passing offense. They can run the ball really well. They couldn't really do that as much as they have last year. This year, they're better on the ground. And if you were to ask me who wins this game, I think Alabama wins this game. I don't see Tennessee going into Tuscaloosa and winning. But I do not think that Bama beats them by 10 points. I think it comes down to a touchdown. I think Alabama wins this game by 7 points. I don't see them beating I just don't see them beating Tennessee by more than a touchdown. I really don't. And it's not because Alabama's not that good. It's because Tennessee is that good. And I would love to see Tennessee beat Alabama at Tuscaloosa. That would be tremendous. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I just don't. I love Tennessee. I think that they have a great future ahead of them, but I just think that they miss the college football again this year. And I think, honestly, if you were to ask me who I think that Alabama is one of the only contenders left to truly challenge Georgia in the SEC. Not saying Tennessee doesn't, right? But if you play Georgia at Georgia, Tennessee would get blown out. I think so. But they play them at Neyland, so there is hope, right? But in this game on Saturday at 3:30, I just think that Alabama has just enough to get through it. But yeah, I'd put money on it. I would. I'm just saying I am. So there's a lot that's riding on this game for both teams. So hopefully Tennessee does pull off the upset. I'd love to see them do it, but we'll see. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Tune in for the next episode. And we are going to review all of the games that took place on Saturday. And we look forward to talking about that here on Third and Long. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, and leave a comment. Like and share the video. So we appreciate it. We appreciate all the support. All right. Thank you. God bless.